The first and second pada have more of the dharma and practice for people. The third pada gets into the special powers, and the fourth pada is very complicated. And if you don't hear the first two padas, you're probably not going to be able to understand the fourth pada. So we're going to start from the beginning, 1-1. Put the screen share on. And here we go. Sutra 1-1. Yoga is being fully present in this moment, body, mind, emotion, spirit, and soul. Second translation, yoga is stilling the mind. Third sutra, then the mind rests within the soul. 1-4, otherwise the soul identifies with the fluctuating consciousness. Sutra 1-5, the fluctuations in consciousness are 5 in origin. They may be detectable or hidden, painful or painless. Sutra 1-6, they are caused by right knowledge, wrong knowledge, delusion, sleep, and remembrance of things past. Sutra 1-7, the sources of correct knowledge are direct perception, logical reasoning, and factual texts. Sutra 1-8, wrong knowledge originates from a distorted understanding of what is real. Sutra 1-9, uncertainty arises when knowledge is based on words alone and is devoid of reality as its basis. So when you hear the words or you're reading the text, you have to have some kind of a experience or personal knowledge in order for it to become real. You can't just base the facts on words alone. You have to have some kind of experiential understanding behind it. Sutra 110, dreamless sleep is the mind state that is absent of perception. See, these are important because the Yoga Sutras explains that you have the dreamless sleep state, which is called the Nidra state. And then you have the dreaming state and the waking state. So those are the three main states of consciousness. But when you're dreaming, you're not physically awake, but you're still experiencing. So you have to meditate on your dream. Where am I experiencing this? How am I experiencing this? There's something more than just the physical going on. And then in the dreamless sleep, most people are unconscious during Nidra. But I was able to stay conscious during some of the Nidra. And what I experienced was I could see and feel all of existence, like the universe. So instead of being completely unconscious, I was conscious and I could feel everything, omniscience. Sutra 111, or Sutra 111. Memory is the unaltered remembrance of words and experiences. Sutra 112. Repeated practice and non-attachment control these 5 fluctuations of the mind. Sutra 113. Effort towards steadiness of mind is practice. Now, this is interesting because a lot of people, when they hear yoga, they think, doing the poses, the cobra, the downward facing dog, they think that's what yoga is. But really, practice is practicing steadying the mind. Sutra 114. Practice becomes firmly grounded when practiced vigilantly for a long time. So as you practice stableness of mind, stability of mind over a long time, your practice becomes firmly grounded. Sutra 115. Renunciation is the practice of freedom from desire. Sutra 116. The highest level of renunciation is when one transcends all earthly attachments and perceives the soul. So once you perceive your soul, you're self-realized. You realize what you truly are. You're not your body, you're not your mind, you're not your emotions, you're your soul. Actually, you're a spirit with a soul. But when you renounce everything, you can experience the soul. The 8 limbs of yoga are the pathway on how to experience the soul. Looking inward, breath work, meditation on God. Sutra 117. Continued effort and non-attachment develops 4 types of samadhi: self-analysis, union, bliss, and the experience of pure being. Sutra 118. When practice of cessation of mental fluctuations is firmly rooted, only the impressions remain. Sutra 119. In asamprajnata samadhi, one may experience existence without a body or become one with nature. This sometimes leads to isolation, deep loneliness, or intense longing. I was going through this today. I come to this point a lot in my practice when I'm detaching. You come to a deep state of loneliness or longing. Sutra 120. One must practice with confidence, vigor, alert memory, and power of absorption to break the spiritual complacency. Sutra 121. Those who practice vigorously with intensity are close to the goal. Sutra 122. There are differences between those who are half-stepping, average, and serious about their practice. Sutra 123. Or the consciousness may be stilled by deep meditation on God and total surrender to Him. Sutra 124. Thanks for joining, guys. Questions and comments you can put down here in the comment section. Sutra 124. The Supreme Being is God, entirely free from conflicts, unaffected by actions, and untouched by cause and effect. The Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end, always was, always will be, non-dualistic. Sutra 125. God is the origin of all energy and knowledge. Sutra 126. God is the Alpha and the Omega, the teacher of all beings with no beginning and no end. Sutra 127. God's sound form is Om. Sutra 128. Repetition of the syllable Om with full presence of mind, body, and soul will allow one to realize its full significance. Sutra 129. Japa of Om while meditating on God clears hindrances to self-mastery. Sutra 130. The hindrances to spiritual enlightenment are disease, inertia, doubt, carelessness, laziness, sensuality, erroneous views, failure to keep one's understanding firmly grounded, and slipping from the ground gained. Sutra 131, thanks for joining. The symptoms that accompany these hindrances are pain, despair, anxiety, and disturbed breathing. So Sutra 130 and Sutra 131 are definitely 2 of the most important sutras in the book, because they're saying that the hindrances to enlightenment are disease, inertia, doubt, carelessness, laziness, sensuality, erroneous views, failure to keep one's understanding firmly grounded, and slipping from the ground gained. Then in Sutra 131, they're telling you that these hindrances have symptoms. The symptoms are pain, despair, anxiety, and disturbed breathing. Sutra 132. Practicing single-minded concentration is the best way to prevent the hindrances and their accompaniments. Sutra 133. Inner peace is achieved and maintained by cultivating friendliness towards those who are happy, compassion for those who suffer, goodwill towards the virtuous, and indifference towards the non-virtuous. Sutra 134. The mind can also be calmed by holding the breath after exhalation. Thanks for joining. Any questions or comments, you can comment I'd be happy to help with any questions you might have. Sutra 135. Or by contemplation of an object that helps maintain steadiness of mind and consciousness. Sutra 136. Or by concentrating on the luminous, blissful light within. Sutra 137. Or when the consciousness is free from longing. Sutra 138. Or by concentrating on the consciousness's experience while dreaming and during dreamless sleep. This one here, by meditating on the dreamless sleep. So when you hit the pillow, most people, they just want to go to sleep, but the yogi meditates on the dreamless sleep state. Because if you can understand consciousness during the dreamless sleep state, you can understand the consciousness that runs through everything. Sutra 139. Or the mind becomes concentrated and still by meditating on anything one chooses. Sutra 140. With the first pada, it's really just recitation of these sutras. You have to recite them until you know them all. Sutra 140. When concentration is mastered, one gains mastery of the smallest to largest dimensions. Sutra 141. When the mind and the heart are purified, the practitioner realizes that the knower, knowable, and knowledge are one. The mind is like a mirror that has had the dust wiped clean. Sutra 142. At this stage called Savitarka Samadhi, the word, meaning, and content are blended, becoming special wisdom. Sutra 143. If you've never heard the sutras before, just take it in. If you have heard them, you're taking them in, you're memorizing them, and you want to understand the essence of each sutra. Sutra 143. In Nirvitarka Samadhi, you realize the difference between memory and intellectual illumination. Your memory becomes cleansed, and the light of consciousness shines with blissful purity. Sutra 144. Savichara Samadhi, deliberate, and Nirvichara Samadhi, non-deliberate, are the contemplation of the subtle aspects. I'll give the second translation for this, Sutra 144. The focused examination of the subtle aspects of the nature of something is also explained as deliberate or non-deliberate. When they say the subtle aspects of the nature of something, that could even be when you're contemplating an experience, when you're contemplating something and you get an insight into it. It can happen by consciously trying to focus on something to get insight, and it'll just happen naturally if you're sitting there. Sutra 145. The subtlest dimension is consciousness. When consciousness dissolves in the space around you, it loses all attachments and becomes pure. Sutra 145 is definitely one of the most important sutras in the book. Sutra 146. The states of samadhi described previously are dependent upon previous knowledge, which can lead to attachment. So even when you're studying these texts, you're putting this knowledge, this information into your mind, into your spirit, into your soul. If you don't hear these sutras, it's very difficult to attain these high levels without hearing some kind of teaching. But when you get to the highest level of this, even the teachings themselves become a limitation. Sutra 147. From mastery of Nirvichara Samadhi, purity is attained and undisturbed, illuminated consciousness flows, igniting the spiritual light of the self. Sutra 148. When consciousness and wisdom become one, limitations are removed. Then the practitioner is capable of knowing anything and everything. So it's almost like our previous understanding becomes a limitation. Sutra 149. The absolute truth is all-encompassing, limitless, and infinite. Sutra 150. The light of this realization bears the fruit of an evolved life. All previous mental impressions are left behind, and new ones are prevented from forming. Sutra 151. When this impression is wiped out, all impressions are completely eradicated and perfect self-realization is achieved. So that's it for the first pada. The first pada you can go through pretty quickly. It's the Dharma. It's definitely the first brick of the text. The second pada is very good also. When you get into the third pada and the fourth pada, if you don't have some kind of an experience with the first two padas, they're going to be a little bit difficult to understand. Even if you have read the first two padas, the third pada can be very challenging. So it's good to study the first and second pada first before you get to the third. It says that it's recitation of the sutras that's very important. You have to recite them forward and backward, and you have to embody their essence. And it says if you don't recite the sutras, you're very unlikely to reach spiritual enlightenment. Thanks so much for staying. I really appreciate it. Please join me in future studies. Any questions or comments you can leave below.